All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Vays YouTube channel. As I am in Rotan, Honduras, following a very awesome Adopting Bitcoin conference in El Salvador. Also, shout out to uh, Miss Bitcoin, former Miss El Salvador. Her birthday was the day after. That was an awesome party. I hope you guys kept an eye on my Instagram. I do need to put these up on X, still call it Twitter. Need an audio video check in the live chat. If you are in the live chat, please let me know if our audio is good and video is good. Joe, oh, sorry. We were just talking about Joe. Jorge, go ahead and say something.
Hello, hello, 1, 2, 3.
Okay. How are our microphones? Everything is good, I hope. All right, still gonna wait a minute for that confirmation. Okay. Wait on confirmation, guys. Throw a thumbs up or something that the audio video is good before I go on with an update on what is happening here. Audio is good. All right, got thumbs up. All right, so you know what? Let's do an update after Jorge or George, as you are on Twitter. Go ahead and do an intro. I'm gonna uh, do screen share so people can see your information on the screen as well, and just your background, who you are, where you're from, and how you got in, what's your role here at Prospera ZEDE, and how you got involved with the project, or how you got involved with the project, and what is your role?
Perfect, Tone. Welcome back to Prospera ZEDE. Happy to have you here, and thank you for having me. My name is Jorge Colindres. I'm a Honduran attorney, and essentially, while I was in law school, I was able to determine that the Honduran laws were not, proper or conducive to economic growth or prosperity. And to be honest, I was just ready to leave the country. And then in 2013, the constitutional amendment passed in Honduras, allowing for the creation of semi-autonomous cities in which you could essentially create a new legal regime different from that which exists in the rest of the country. And that just seemed like, the light at the end of the tunnel for Honduras. So I became involved with the ZEDE, that's the name of the regime, Zones for Employment and Economic Development. I became involved with the deployment of these types of zones in Honduras since 2013. And I joined Prospera in 2020. First, I was just advising as an attorney, advising companies wanting to invest here in Honduras through Prospera ZEDE. But then in 2022, I was designated by the Honduran government as the technical secretary of Prospera ZEDE. This is like the local governor or mayor. I'm the representative of the state of Honduras within this zone. And essentially, the Honduran Congress has empowered me to run this zone, to administer Prospera ZEDE, and basically exercise the powers that the constitutions and the laws give this local government, which essentially consists of creating the legal and economic conditions to attract capital and generate jobs and opportunities for the Honduran people.
Okay, excellent. And we're gonna this is now my third interview here from Prospera ZEDE. You see our gorgeous background. I'll show you a little more of it. We just want to get right into the interview. So also, Jorge, here's your LinkedIn. Guys, all these links are in the video description. If you need to reach out to anyone that I'm ever interviewing, all the links are always in the description. Here's your LinkedIn. Here is the Facebook page for Prospera ZEDE, and of course, the website for Prospera ZEDE can also be found right in your the link should be in the video description as well. I actually had my own custom link for Prospera ZEDE. I checked that link. It wasn't working. I gotta check with your web dev guys, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Just if you're gonna end up investing in Prospera ZEDE or moving to Prospera ZEDE, please throw in a good word that you found out about this on the Tone Vays channel. Okay, so here's some more info. Again, all these links will be in the video description. Also in the video description is a playlist of all my videos about Prospera, and not only my videos, also some of the videos that were created by Prospera, and some of the documentaries or mini films of 15, 20 minutes that were filmed about Prospera, and the trip that Brian Johnson did here to get his injection, his DNA altering injection took place here voluntarily, unlike some of the vaccine mandates we have to deal with a while ago. Here in Prospera ZEDE as well, along with other videos about the island itself. There's one video that I'll play, but it'll be part of my little presentation. Okay, and this is basically, okay, that's the episode of Grey Zone. We'll get to that. Okay, so I've done this presentation for my 2 other interviews. I'm going to go through it real quick. If you want to add a little bit more clarity, because I did put this together like 6 months ago. The first time I did an interview was back in April with Eric, and I haven't really updated it since. I was going to, but I was too busy diving the last 2 days. I am now a certified open water diver. I did it all in 2 days. It was crazy. That's all I've been doing the last 2 days. Okay, guys, so let's go through. We're going to play this quick video. Wait. The audio, I need to make sure you can hear the audio first. Share computer sound. Excellent. Let me know if there's a problem with this audio. It's gonna play. And I'll pause it for a second because we are sitting in this villa right here. So when I stop the screen share, the pool behind me that you see is literally this pool. We're sitting right here, and the ocean that you'll see will be in between these buildings right there. I've stayed at this villa before as well. It was excellent, and this is the biggest villa on the property. So I'm going to speed up the video a little bit. I can't actually because it's not in YouTube. Okay, that's okay. It's only 2 minutes.
Prospera is building the fastest growing private city project in the world, elevating human potential through a radically decentralized private governance framework. Legacy systems of governance keep individuals from reaching their full potential. Prospera provides a pro-innovation governance framework, creating the most transparent and efficient business environment in the world. Our system for legal, regulatory, and tax are designed to be an economic supercharger, massively easing business operations and unlocking new opportunities for innovation in industries like finance, medicine, construction, and more. Prospera partners with global leaders in architecture and urban development to build new cities on this platform, creating transformative investment opportunities. Our platform is currently powering the next generation Prospera city on the island of Roatan in Honduras, as well as an emerging prosperity hub on the Honduran mainland, with more locations planned worldwide. Prospera has strong legal stability protections, protected by international treaty for a minimum of 50 years.
All right. What I'm going to do is, because it's playing through an intermediary before playing it, I am going to move to YouTube. I am going to make it a little bit faster, just 25% faster. I'm going to go find that part, and we're going to start again. Okay.
Is currently powering the next generation Prospera city on the island of Roatan in Honduras, as well as an emerging prosperity hub on the Honduran mainland, with more locations planned worldwide. Prospera has strong legal stability protections, protected by international treaty for a minimum of 50 years. The 32-square-mile island of Roatan is the location of Prospera's first city-scale development. The community's current footprint is over 400 acres and is easily accessible via direct commercial flights from Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, Miami, and other major U.S. and international airports, straight to the island. Prospera's development is conveniently located within a 20-minute drive of Roatan's International Airport, making it easy to travel directly from the United States to Prospera in just a few hours. Since its founding in the year 2020, Prospera's first development has grown from a greenfield site to include a host of world-class amenities. These include the pristine Bay Resort, Roatan's largest and most exclusive resort property, featuring villas, a hotel, private beaches, restaurants, an 18-hole Pete Dye golf course, and more. The commercial district offers Class A office space, with additional properties currently under construction. Prospera is home to some of the world's most innovative new companies, pioneering innovations in fintech, gene therapy, robotic construction, and more. If you're an entrepreneur on the forefront of the latest innovations, an investor seeking new opportunities for growth, or a 21st century pioneer searching for a beautiful destination where you can freely pursue your dreams, Prospera is the place for you. You can become a Prospera resident online today and create your business in just a few minutes from anywhere in the world. As the private governance services provider for the jurisdiction, Prospera Incorporated provides investors an opportunity to accelerate the city's growth and participate in the upside. The company is currently accepting investment in a $150 million convertible note offering.
Okay, and I will briefly go through the presentation, the rest of it. This is the legal framework that started the ZEDE concept, and I'll let you explain that a little bit more. I'm not sure if the link to this presentation is in the video description, but I will add it to the video description. And so it began all the way back in 2013 when the ZEDE zones were established by the then president and the administration, which was a little more right-leaning, a little more capitalist-leaning, and their view was to try and bring more international investment to Honduras. So maybe give us a little bit more of a background on how the ZEDE zones came about.
Yeah, definitely. So in 2008, 2009, we had a president and administration who was from the Liberal Party. This is also like a right-wing party, but overnight, the president became a socialist, a Marxist, essentially because Hugo Chavez, the deceased dictator of Venezuela, he came to Honduras and gave $150 million to the cabinet, to the presidential cabinet. And so overnight, they became socialists, and the president wanted to essentially overthrow the constitution, create a new constitution, and stay in power.
This is the current president we're talking about.
The first gentleman, the husband of President Xiomara Castro.
Okay, the husband of the current president.
The husband of the current president was president of Honduras from 2006 to 2009. And essentially, he allied himself with the Venezuelan dictatorship and with the Cuban dictatorship to overthrow the constitution, try to stay in power. But the Supreme Court ordered his arrest. He was expelled of the country, and this created a constitutional crisis and also a diplomatic crisis. Honduras was,
So that's two presidents in a row that were basically because the prior president is still in prison in the United States?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
President Hernandez, and he came 2 administrations later. So in 2008, 2009, these people, were removed from power, and this created a crisis. With diplomatic sanctions, economic sanctions were put against Honduras. And so the next administration, this is
was the husband of that same president.
No, this is the current one right now.
Right now, yes.
Yeah, so 2008, 2009.
Well, sorry, it was the wife of that president.
Correct.
Is-
So,
okay.
yeah, so the 2008, 2009 are like the communist presidents, right?
Right.
Which are now back again in power. But before then, in the middle, we had 3 administrations of right-wing, sort of right-wing, more or less
capitalist regimes.
In a sense, it was sort of mixed. It's the National Party rule has a very conservative side, and then it has like a smaller, more free market side.
Okay.
And so it was the free market segment within that party that pushed forward a lot of positive reforms. They created ZEDEs. They simplified the processes to create a business. They ended 50-year state monopoly on electricity. So the ZEDEs were created because the country was in a deep crisis, and so you needed solutions. And the free market element within the National Party, that's the solution they proposed. Let's do semi-autonomous zones, just like China has done. It's been very successful, so let's replicate that policy here.
The ZEDE licenses were granted in 2019.
In 2013, they created the legal framework. And in 2017.
2017 was the first granting of these licenses.
Correct.
To build the ZEDE zone.
Correct, yes.
And there are currently 3 ZEDE zones. Prospera is one, and the only one on Rotan. There's two on mainland. I've visited one of the ones on mainland as well. I didn't get to do an interview, the Maizan. The Maizan. Morazan, right.
Excellent, yes.
Morazan ZEDE, I went to visit it. Unfortunately, the founder of that zone was not there at the time, but I went to see it, so what it looked like. And one day I do want to interview that founder as well. We lost video. I need to make sure we didn't lose anything else. Okay, I don't know why we lost the video feed, but I just put the video feed back. So I went to visit another ZEDE, and that ZEDE, and we're gonna get back to that as well, because these ZEDE zones are demonized as foreigners trying to come and take away Honduran land and Honduran resources. But the ZEDE on the mainland is formed by a Honduran for Hondurans.
Yeah,
So,
it's a Honduran solution for
right.
problems.
Right. So, but we'll get back to that as well. Okay, so let me mention real quick about Prospera and why I like it so much. My 4th time here this year, and I only found out about it this year. So, and I've already gone here 4 times. Here's where Prospera is located. This is the island of Rotan. I've driven pretty much the whole island. There is not a single traffic light on the entire island. I think I saw one stop sign somewhere. But the island is 100,000 people. So maybe it reaches 130,000 when all 3 cruise ships happen to dock at the same time. It's very small, incredible food, absolutely excellent. I think it's the best diving in the Caribbean. Well, I don't have much experience diving other than here, but I've snorkeled in a lot of places, and this is pretty much the best. This was the original area of that zone. And this is the Beta building. I might do my next interview from the Beta building. That's the co-working space. The first residential high-rise building has been completed. People are living there already. I almost purchased an apartment here. I have not done so yet. The first building's apartments were a little bit on the small side, so I was more interested in putting down pre-construction on a bigger apartment on a higher floor. For building 2. So hopefully building 2 will break ground sometime next year, and I will get to do that. I don't know if we need to do an update on that. I kind of run a focus on the ZEDEs, but if you have some kind of an update on another residential building, feel free to give us a quick update.
No, I mean, right now,
Things are on hold a little bit.
Yes, I'm focused on the legal stability part
Yeah.
and receiving the next government here in Honduras.
Oh, let me zoom in on these. That was going to be the apartment I was going to buy. It was going to be right there. This is the first residential floor above the commercial floor, which is still 5 floors up. So you get a nice view of the ocean no matter what. And here is the nicest Bitcoin center I have ever seen. And I've been to many, many of them all around the world. It's at the highest point. This was an additional property that was purchased in 2021.
2021, yeah.
2021. This is Pristine Bay. Absolutely incredible villas that were in Pristine Bay right now. We're in Las Verandas Resort. I've done an interview with Eric from right here. And I've done an interview from this villa that you see right here. I've done an interview from this villa, and right now we're doing an interview from this villa. So over time, I've pretty much stayed in all of the nicer villas on this property. Definitely a potential home for a future financial summit as well. And this property was in distress. It was during the pandemic. The country was locked down and shut down. This property was estimated at $115 million before the pandemic. And during the pandemic, Prospera was able to acquire this property for $40-something million. So at a 60% discount, there it is, $43 million acquisition of a property that was appraised in 2016 for $115 million. And I am expecting the ZEDE zones to continue. We're going to talk about that. And once this property rolls into the ZEDE infrastructure, the value of this property is pretty much going to skyrocket because it gets put under a completely different tax structure and other.
Most of
There
it's
you go.
already within the ZEDE zone. It's just tiny bits that are still pending, but most of it's already within the ZEDE.
Yeah, so right now I still have to pay like a 25% tax to stay in this villa, but in the near future, when it's
Yeah.
properly rolled into the ZEDE zone, that 25% tax gets dropped down to about 5% or even 2.5%. I got to remember the value added tax that it drops down to, and the 25% tax, that's the federal tax, and the ZEDE gets to set their own taxes, which is why the current left-leaning government is so anti-ZEDE. This is what the future holds, and we're not going to get into that in this interview. We'll save that for another interview, and what kind of economic development that's going to happen here. Also, not going to get into details on the funding and the investment rounds, but just so you know, the seed investment was $2.5 million in 2017. Series A was 10 million in 2020. And Series B was completed in 2022 for 50 million, with an additional 100 million specific to real estate and land acquisition. That was the purchase of Pristine Bay for 43 million, the acquisition of the land in between the original ZEDE zone and Pristine Bay, and other financing that goes specific to the land and the real estate, versus building out that land for the Prospera city. I will do another interview the next time I come here with someone that would do an update on how the land acquisition is coming along for the area in between, because eventually there will be a road built directly from the residential and the co-working space better building straight to the Las Verandas Resort. Right now, it takes 20 minutes to go around versus having a road here, which you can walk, or probably about a 5-minute drive. You can also take a water taxi, which I have done. Here is the potential value. Rotan is very undervalued for such a beautiful island, especially if it gets this incredible free market economic development. I mean, look at Hong Kong. The landmass in Rotan is probably even about the size of Hong Kong, maybe even smaller, probably smaller than Hong Kong. And look at the land value of Hong Kong because of all of the capitalism that was built there. But that is, maybe in 30, 40 years. For now, even something like the Colón Free Zone in Panama, where I live in Panama, is incredibly valued because of its free economic zones. So Rotan has incredible potential. Here are everyone always asks, is this a tax-free zone? In my interview with Eric, we explained why a zero tax haven could be good, but in reality comes with its own problems. A very low competitive tax zone is actually the most advantageous. For more on this, again, I may do a whole episode about the taxes in here in Prospera ZEDE. For now, we are skipping this topic, but at a maximum, your taxes will be 7.5%, and that's the maximum. There are other ways to live here. That's maximum if you live here and have a business here and own land here. Not everybody is going to do all three of these things. So I am a resident of Prospera, and I'm a resident of Prospera. I don't spend all my time here in Prospera. So at the moment, I don't pay any taxes to Prospera. But once I actually spend more time here, I will be at a 5% tax and some sales tax or value-added tax, very, very small. Definitely not the 26% you would pay when you're renting a hotel. Here is the corporate structure. It's a little different now. I will do an interview with Luke as well, who's the CFO. And Jorge, here you are in this structure. This is an old graphic. And that is pretty much the end of the presentation. I do have one more, actually. Who is Prospera targeting? And these are the 4 different target zones that I have come up with. You have permanent residents, those that are just willing to move here and live here because they think it's awesome. It's a great community. You meet people, you hang out, you go diving, and that requires a fairly small investment. You can just rent an apartment here and spend your time here. You have digital nomads that are going to actually live here. Also, permanent residents is someone that wants to come here and work. People come here, they love it. I met several people that liked it so much they wanted to move here. They applied for a job with Prospera. They got a job in Prospera, and here they are. Digital nomads like myself, this is where I am. I am looking for, the perfect place to live. Prospera is on a very short list. It will cost you to buy an apartment if you want to invest in buying an apartment. Maybe open a small business. If I do move here full-time permanently, I may open a little bar restaurant. I always wanted to do that. That investment could be a little bigger, up to $1 million, depends on how big of a business you want. There's a scuba shop here, other businesses. So that could be a small investment if it's a digital business, or a large investment if it's a physical business. And you have larger investors in Prospera itself, or investors in the land note, which we're not going to get into on this podcast either. So here's what we are going to talk about. Here's a letter that you actually sent out. Let me see if I have an e-reader that will read it for us, and then we're going to discuss the latest development. There is not, so I will have to read it. Unfortunately, not my specialty. I'm writing to inform you about the significant development that has unfolded regarding the ZEDE regime. The Supreme Court of Honduras has issued a ruling declaring the ZEDE regime unconstitutional, which is interesting because the ZEDE zones are in the Constitution.
Yeah.
They were added to the Constitution in 2013, and this ruling seems to say that the addition of these ZEDEs to the Constitution was unconstitutional.
Correct.
Which is very interesting. With retroactive effect, which is something that laws, at least in the West where I'm from, is illegal to create retroactive laws. So what that means is, back in the Prohibition days, the day that alcohol became illegal, you were not going to get arrested for having an alcoholic beverage the day before. The day gambling becomes illegal, you do not get arrested for gambling the day before. Laws anywhere in the world are not retroactive.
Yeah, it's a human right. It's
It is a human rights violation.
Yeah.
So this alone is very interesting that I would love to discuss, because how can you make a retroactive law? It is a human rights violation.
Legally, you can't.
Right. We understand that this news may be alarming, and I want to assure you that we are closely monitoring the situation and awaiting the final notification of the ruling in order to thoroughly assess the implications and determine our next steps. It is important to emphasize the Supreme Court of Honduras is bound by the Honduran Constitution to respect the legal stability rights of Prospera ZEDE residents. This ruling directly contradicts these rights, as well as national and international laws that safeguard our legal framework. As such, we view the ruling as null and void. Rest assured, we are committed to defending the rights of our community and the principles upon which Prospera was built. We'll provide further updates as more information becomes available. Thank you and for your confidence and trust and support. And this letter came from yourself, and this is the same thing in Spanish, I believe.
Yeah.
And so this was just about a month ago. What's the date on this? Exactly 1 month ago. It's November 20th today. Oh, sorry, 2 months ago. It was 2 months ago. You're right. 2 months ago today. So, all right, I'll give you the floor. So tell us the latest on this. I'm going to cut the screen share for a second so you guys enjoy the view behind us. And so I'll just give the floor to you. Tell us how this came about. I will say that the current government, the Castro government, ran on a demonization platform of the ZEDEs to help get them elected, which was a very evil strategy, but that's politics. And they have 1 more year The elections are when?
Our next year,
November or January?
November.
November.
Yes.
November of next year, there's actually 1 year to go before elections, and they're finally trying to follow through on their promise to eliminate the ZEDE zones, but they have demonized them to the point that even the gray zone, which I absolutely respect, completely got this issue backwards. And it's so unfortunate because I agree with them on Russia, Ukraine, on Israel, Gaza, on lockdowns, on US politics, even their views on Venezuela, I agree with. And somehow they fell into the trap of Honduras, and the demonization of these zones has been unlike anything I've seen in politics. But I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, no, so from the legal situation, CEDEs were, and this is very important because CEDEs were crafted precisely for this moment, right? So when CEDEs were made, they were built to withstand these types of governments, because this is what the CEDEs are meant to offer: legal stability when you have essentially a despotic or a government that doesn't respect the rule of law. And the crafters laid out several protections for the framework. And the government so far, it's in these 3 years that they have been in power, they have been unable to dismantle the zones because of these protections. And what's happening right now is that the court declared CEDES unconstitutional with retroactive effects. This contradicts 5 prior decisions by the Honduran Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court had previously said that CEDES were constitutional 5 times. And there are over 40 prior decisions saying that the rulings of the Supreme Court do not have retroactive effects. So this new ruling contradicts the prior case law of the court itself, and it also violates the Honduran Constitution, because the Honduran Constitution expressly states that the rulings of the Supreme Court do not have retroactive effects when they want to void or eliminate a law, right, that they have deemed unconstitutional. Why is this happening? Well, essentially because they packed the Supreme Court.
I was going to ask, is it the same Supreme Court, or has it been altered in the last 3 years?
So it was altered last year. Actually, last year they altered the Supreme Court of Honduras, and 2 prior courts had confirmed the constitutionality of CEDES. But in 2023, this Libre administration, the Socialist Party, this is the Libre Socialist Party, they put they packed the court. The president of the court, she's an aunt. She's a direct family member of the presidential family. This is of President.
Wow.
Yeah, she's the aunt of Mel Zelaya's daughter. So she's the political aunt of the president's daughter. So there's a family. And then another of the justices, she's the wife of the right-hand man and former chief of staff of former President Manuel Zelaya, the current husband of
the current husband of the President Castro.
Of the President Castro. Then another one is a former minister of President Zelaya's administration. So they really went ahead and packed the court. And so they're issuing these illegal rulings. Now, again, the Constitution forbids retroactive rulings of this nature. The law forbids it. The case law forbids it. So we're in a situation where the Supreme Court has issued a ruling that is forbidden by the Constitution, by international treaties, by the law, and also by the case law. And then what do you do in that case, right? Like, because we have a Supreme Court that's going against, all the laws and case law and treaties and everything here in Honduras. And today, the dissenting justices, there were 7. There's 15 justices in the Honduran Supreme Court.
How many were there, say, 5 years ago?
It's always been
15.
Yeah, but every 7 years they
change. They're not lifetime positions like they are in the US.
Correct.
Okay. Every 7 years, the justices, are they appointed or are they voted in?
So you have a list of, it's a strange thing here. You have a list of notaries, notary publics.
Yes.
And so only notary publics can be Supreme Court justices. And so then,
Wow.
yeah, and
Are they lawyers? Are they
yeah,
judges?
lawyers. They have to be lawyers and notary publics.
Notary and notary publics.
Yes,
Okay.
and
Okay. So they don't have to be a judge to be a Supreme Court judge.
no, only
That is
only,
incredible.
yeah, yeah.
That is absolutely incredible.
And it really restricts because you have thousands of lawyers in Honduras, but notaries, I don't think you even have 2,000 notaries. You have probably 12.
Yeah, that's very different. For those of us, the majority of my audience is in the West. In the United States, for example, anyone can be a notary with like a weekend course. Notaries in America I have friends that are notaries just so they can stamp their own documents. That is probably the lowest possible position of anything. You need zero legal ability to be a notary. All you have to do is watch someone else make a signature and put a stamp that you watch them sign a paper.
Yeah.
But in other countries, I know notaries are a little more prominent.
It's like
a big deal.
Class. Yeah,
Yeah.
in Spain, in Honduras, in many Latin American countries, like a big deal to
Wow,
be
but it's incredible how the Supreme Court judges don't actually have to have any judging experience before becoming Supreme Court judges. That is something I learned today, and that is crazy.
Yeah, no, the president of the court, she was a broker, insurance policy broker. But she's there because of her family.
Incredible.
She's there because of her family ties, right? And so what happens in practice is that the political parties, they sort of divide the positions, the 15 justices, in accordance to the electoral results, and so they put whoever they want there. Essentially, that's how the system works. Some parties are more responsible than others, and they select people with higher qualifications and everything. And but this is the situation. And today, the dissenting justices filed. So out of the 15 justices, 8 voted to declare the ZEDE unconstitutional, and 7 disagreed with that decision. They said that these rulings do not have retroactive effect and that they shouldn't affect existing ZEDEs. And today they presented their dissenting votes, in which they essentially say that the court's ruling is null and void because it exceeds the powers that the Constitution and the laws have given the court. This is known as ultra vires. Ultra vires Act is when you do something beyond your legal powers, right? So this is what the court has done. And this is the current debate. This is just happened today. The dissenting vote says it's not a regular dissenting vote because you can disagree with a ruling.
Right, so
but
it's a vote saying this is
Yeah,
unconstitutional.
this is unconstitutional, null and void, and inapplicable. So it's a dissenting vote with legal and practical implications. They also agree that it's a human rights violation because of the retroactivity of the law that they're applying. And so this is the current debate. However, the ruling has been leaked, and we've been able to review it and analyze it. And there is a provision in Honduran law that says that the rulings from the Supreme Court regarding the constitutionality of a law, these types of rulings, do not affect the legal situations that have been definitively resolved and executed. What does that mean? The Honduran law, this is Article 94 of the Law of Constitutional Justice, says that these rulings do not affect the legal situations that have been definitively executed and resolved. This is the authorizations to organize Prospera ZEDE, to organize the other two ZEDEs. These are the labor contracts. The labor contracts are under Prospera ZEDE regulation. The incorporation of companies. There are over 235 companies that have incorporated here in Prospera ZEDE under these rules. We have permits, licenses, investment authorizations, legal stability agreements. So all of this, according to Honduran law, should not be impacted by this ruling. So we believe it's null and void. Independently of that debate, the current law in Honduras says that that ruling doesn't affect us. And on top of that, we still have the international treaties. These treaties are CAFTA. This is the free trade agreement with the US. And we have the bilateral investment agreement between Honduras and Kuwait. And this treaty guarantees the permanency of the ZEDE framework for a period of 50 years. These treaties are still in effect. So yes, you have this ruling. Yeah, the court issued an illegal ruling, but the current law and the applicable law in Honduras says that this ruling does not affect us. And you have a treaty, you have a law, and so our position is that when this ruling is published, it hasn't yet been published. Our legal position is that we have the right to continue operating, to keep pushing forward. However, it's in the end, it's going to depend on what the executive power decides to do, right? Because I mean, the law protects us, the treaties protect us, but in the end, they have the weapons, they have the guns, you know, they have the attorney general and the ability to prosecute, etc. But legally speaking, we have the right to continue operating. We're enshrined in Honduran law for 50 years, and we plan to defend and exercise our rights. And this is the plan, right? So anything short of, you know, basically deploying the armed forces or the public ministry and start prosecuting us, then that's not going to stop us. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't come to that. The change in administration in the U.S. Has really panicked the communist and socialist governments in the region, and again, like you know, right now we have a socialist, you know, socialist government that wants to stay in power. They want to. So this is the other key element. This ruling is not only about us, right? So they want to void it retroactively, because they say that the congressmen that approved ZEDE are traitors. And so they want to persecute the main political opposition parties. That is the main angle of this ruling. They say the opposition party lawmakers who approved ZEDEs, these are traitors. And so because the ruling is retroactive, now we're going to persecute the political opposition of Honduras before the general elections of 2025. So that's the main angle, and we're essentially collateral damage in their attempt to persecute the political opposition.
Oh, I see. Yeah, which is happening more and more across the world, even in the United States.
Yeah.
We're dealing with the same thing, prosecuting your political opponents. I'm from Panama. It's happening there. Over there, it's been happening back and forth for a while.
In Brazil, it's also pretty bad.
Yes. So this is happening all around the world. The legal persecution of, well, through the legal system. Not hard to call this legal. Using the legal system to take away your political opponents. So the election in Honduras coming up in 1 year is going to be very, very interesting.
Very important, and I think that I mean, for me as a Honduran, it's not only about Prospera, right? It's about saving the country. If you save the country from communist dictatorship, because that's what it is, and I'm not exaggerating. Like the president, you know, she says she speaks to Hugo Chavez's spirit, like that. She said in public interviews, "Oh, I still Commander Chavez. He comes in a little bird and speaks to me." Like I mean, these people idolize dictators like Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez. So it's a very dangerous anti-democratic party that's is seeking to eradicate the political opposition. However, what's good for us is that Prospera ZEDE, they were very much demonized in 2021, but that has changed in these past years. So right now, you know, we are allies of a broader coalition.
Yeah, I want
to safeguard democracy and achieve a alternation in power.
Yeah, this was going to be my next topic, in that there's this massive demonization of ZEDEs in general, but specifically Prospera ZEDE, because this is a very nice property. You guys are building incredible things here. You are very conscious of the environment. You don't want to have, you know, an ecological footprint. You're trying to build within the land and the means in order not to disturb nature. But there is a substantial amount of foreign investment, especially for a country like Honduras. There are wealthy foreigners invested in this project. It is an American corporation, and all of that is fueling the I hope everything's working. I think my camera froze again. Hey guys, everything working okay? Okay. And all of that is fueling this demonization of the zone. So can you just talk a little bit about how these ZEDEs, and there's only been three, and the third one isn't really building much. So it's really Prospera ZEDE and the Mossad, can I pronounce it right? Morazan ZEDE. But let's talk specifically about Prospera. Just explain to the viewers or those that are confused that this is not evil, rich capitalists coming to take over Honduras, take away Honduran land, enslave its people. How it is not what happened back in the 50s and 60s with the bananas.
Yeah. Well, I am the technical secretary. I'm the highest ranking public official within the zone. I represent the zone, and I lead the executive power within the zone. I was appointed by the government of Honduras to run Prospera ZEDE, and basically Honduran Congress gave me the power to adopt a legal system and a local public administration that is more conducive to economic growth. But you have to understand, it's not like investors came here to negotiate this. No, Hondurans did this. Honduran attorneys did this. There were no investors in Honduras. Honduras was in a political crisis. They called it a coup. They say Honduras diplomatic sanctions. They expelled Honduras from the Organization of American States. This is the OAS, the local UN body here in the Americas, right? And Honduran lawyers, some of them, Carlos Pineda Pinel, Octavio Sanchez, like Honduran thinkers, they thought of solutions. How do we deal with this situation of extreme poverty? You have 70% of the population of Honduras living in extreme poverty. Nobody wants to invest. We're always in a constitutional crisis here. So how do we fix this? And it was in those years from 2010 to 2013 that these people devised these ideas. They copied them essentially from the success of special economic zones in China. And actually, if you take the Hong Kong basic law and you take the ZEDE organic law, it's almost a literal translation. So the ZEDE organic law is almost a literal translation from the Hong Kong basic law. And what Honduras wanted to do is deploy here what has been one of the most successful poverty reduction policies in the world. China lifted over 1 billion people out of poverty, transitioning
with the Shenzhen zone and Macau and
many others. They have
and even Taiwan.
Yeah. And even Taiwan. And then you have United Arab Emirates with the Dubai International Financial Center. So Honduras followed that recipe. Honduras said, okay, let's do like China did. Let's do like the UAE did with the Dubai Financial Free Zones. And they deployed these zones. And after the zones were deployed, they started a campaign to attract investors. So Prospera came in 2016, 2017, because the Hondurans here were fighting to attract investments. So
it's the opposite of what they say. Yes. They say a bunch of greedy capitalists from America showed up and started buying up the land. And clearly that's the opposite of what actually happened.
No, it was Hondurans seeking investment because, look, most of the population understands that, we need capital, we need investment. There's generally in Honduras, there's a positive view of the United States and even a foreign investment. People like it here. It's only a fringe minority that opposes it. However, they are in key spots, right, of society, like political parties. Some are in the media, some are in universities and schools, and so they have a very loud voice. But in general, the Honduran population, they need work. These are poor people. They love investment. They'll take any job. Really, it's a very desperate situation. And so when I was in law school and I was reading through the Honduran laws, and then I could understand why we were poor. The Constitution is packed with contradictions. The laws are very restrictive for trade and commerce. There's a lot of legal insecurity because we don't have like this binding case law. So any judge can rule whatever they want, and it doesn't really bind the other judge. And so anybody interprets the law however they want it. So this is the situation of Honduras. And when I saw the constitutional amendments allowing us Hondurans to essentially create a local government and decentralize most of the powers of the Honduran state, of the Honduran government, into a local government, that was the most amazing thing ever. Like, if you don't like the Honduran government because it's corrupt, because it's inefficient, because it hasn't provided the results that we needed to provide, if you don't like it, it's not just about criticizing it or voting for another party or engaging in national politics. What the ZEDE system does is that it allows us Hondurans to say, you know what, we don't like the job you're doing. I think we can do it better. So we're going to take these powers, decentralize them into a local government, and here we can build and make decisions that we think are proper for our own development. And that's the unique opportunities that ZEDE offer to Honduras and Hondurans.
All right, that is absolutely great. And I do want to cover one more question, and this came up a lot in that video that I played earlier. This is the video from Prospera, in that because of what happened, because of what the Honduran government is trying to do, and retroactively criminalize these zones, Prospera has taken the initiative to sue the Honduran government in international court. And so can you just go over why did Prospera go on this offensive, and why it's important globally to show the world that if a government is being tyrannical and going against their own constitution, there need to be international consequences, especially when it was the prior Honduran government that attracted close to $200 million in investment for this project alone.
Yeah, so the rule of law is in scarcity. The rule of law is something scarce, particularly in Latin America, but in general, what they call third world nations. But in Latin America, it's almost very hard or non-existent, right? So what do? International law and international treaties have helped our countries mitigate the risks and damages that local politicians and the lack of rule of law have caused. So if you have a country that doesn't comply with its own laws, what do? Right? You don't trust the country. You don't invest there unless international law comes in and they set a minimum framework and minimum requirement of how you can treat investors, and also how you treat people in terms of human rights. So the Honduran government, not only this administration, but in general, they don't respect the law, they don't respect investment, they don't respect human rights. But when you have the treaties in place, you have international mechanisms to enforce the law, because the local mechanisms don't work. The courts is packed. All the courts usually, there's a general lack of independence in Honduran courts. Government is corrupt. Then you have a lot of the quality of the bureaucrat. It's not good. The public officials don't know the law, and they don't know the technical aspects of the industries that they are regulating. So when the local system fails, then you have these international law safeguards, and you have bodies like the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, and you have the ICSID, which is the International Center for Investor-State Disputes, and it's an arbitration center that is attached to, it's part of the World Bank, and foreign investors, when they are affected illegally by the government, then this treaty allows them to sue that government into the ICSID, which is this arbitral court, and this arbitral court can issue an award, essentially demanding that the government pay and compensate the investors for damages. And there are other arbitral bodies. There's UNCITRAL. This is from the UN. Some other treaties provide for the arbitration center at the Paris Chamber of Commerce. And then the legal stability agreements signed with Prospera ZEDE residents and investors, they also direct to other arbitration forums. And right now, because the government has been, the Honduran government has been reluctant and actually violating several of our rights, they took away the custom service to Prospera. So we have a custom service that allows companies here to import and export without any taxes. The Honduran government has interrupted this service, and now currently we cannot import or export with the tax benefits that the law and the Constitution gives us. Then we also have tax exemptions when we make purchases to the national market. Those are not being respected. So when a company here in Prospera buys something in the national market, they shouldn't have to pay a sales tax, but they're collecting the sales tax. And the National Banks and Insurance Commission, they have also pressured the local banks into shutting down the accounts of Prospera businesses, the bank accounts. So they've done a lot of these actions, and this has created damages. Out of there was a $500 million investment plan for the first 5 years, and out of those $500 million, somewhere above 120 million is what Honduras Prospera Inc. has been able to raise to deploy here in Honduras. So, and this is entirely because of the political attacks, right? And yeah, so HPI, this is the private company, not to be confused with the local ZEDE government. They started an international arbitration lawsuit against the state of Honduras in the ICSID. This is the arbitral forum of the World Bank, for almost $11 billion. And this is just one way, among many, in which Prospera, the community in general, we're going to prove that that the laws actually protect us, and that what's happening here is just a politicized attack from this temporal administration that is also on their way out of power, right? So that's the situation with the arbitration. However, when this Supreme Court ruling becomes public, if the government intends to use it as an excuse to stop the investment and business projects here in Prospera, then you will see more arbitration, international arbitration lawsuits against Honduras. We have 235 companies here.
And every company could file a
Yes.
lawsuit against the Honduran government.
Yes, every resident and investor and worker in Prospera, they have a legal stability agreement.
Well, I'm a resident of
Yeah.
Prospera.
Yeah, so you should have you have a legal, if you're a resident, you have a legal stability agreement. Yeah, there's a clause, and Congress directly authorized the technical secretary of each zone to sign legal stability agreements with its residents and investors. And basically what that says is that if the ZEDE laws are repealed, then the ZEDE regime remains in effect for the period established in the agreement, which is 50 years, all the way to 2064. And so everybody, we have thousands of persons. We have over 2,000 registered residents here in Prospera, physical and electronic residents, and 235 businesses. All of them have claims against the Honduran government. If the Honduran government, attempts to shut down the ZEDEs, and then it's just a matter of time, right? Once those cases are won, then those are binding rulings that override the Supreme Court decision, and are finally resolve the matter in law. So this is just from the legal perspective. What we expect is going to happen is that a new government will be elected. This current government is very unpopular, so it's very likely that the current political opposition comes into power by 2026, and that essentially ZEDE residents and investors can settle their disputes with the new government, and so there won't be a need to finish, the lawsuits. Hope we can settle those once a new government is in power. But if that doesn't happen, then they have to wait for the rulings to come and then come here to enforce them.
Yeah, it's this unfortunate evil cycle where when the ZEDE was initially proposed, this particular ZEDE, you guys had a plan of how much economic activity you will generate on a timeline. And then that those goals could not have been met because the government shut down the country for COVID and lockdowns. And obviously that slowed down development, that slowed down investment. And during that time, more, I guess, adversarial government to the zone came in.
Yeah.
And additionally made it harder for Prospera ZEDE to get more investment and create more development. And then they ended up using your expected economic activity and development, saying, you see, you can't meet those goals, because they basically tied your hands behind your back to allow you to meet those goals. And that gave them extra reason to demonize the zones. And now that you've mentioned there are other incentives to do so against the political opponents that created these zones to begin with. And now when those that did invest in this, assuming that they had a 50-year international agreement, the only thing they can do is try to bring their case to the international court. And now the current government is using the fact that these companies are bringing their case to international court to demonize this project even more, creating this horrible cycle
I mean, it's just
of
last year.
anti-capitalism.
Yeah, but it's the last year of this. You know, Honduras. It's important to clear this up. You know, Honduran people did not vote for socialism. People did not elect this government because of its proposals. They are only in power because they were part of a broader coalition. So this is why they won the elections, because they were part of a coalition. You know, one of the coalition members, Salvador Nasrallah, he's like a right wing. You know, politician, one of the most popular politicians in the country, and he joined with them in an alliance to get rid of the previous government and govern jointly. However, once they won, they stripped themselves out of the moderate and the smart elements and just a radical.
This is what happens when you make a coalition with a very left-leaning government.
Yeah,
it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, and so one part is the legal side, and in the end, if you go to the final route, then the international courts and arbitral forums, they will issue the rulings, and you know, we're very confident that if the Constitution, international treaties, the laws, and the case law tell us that Prospera is guaranteed for 50 years, you know, we're very confident that any international court or forum will rule in favor of Prospera investors and residents. So that's pretty clear. Ideally, we settle with the next government, but so that's the legal side. Politically, the truth is that because sometimes people tell me, how come you cannot get along with this government, or how come you cannot find a solution? Well, you know, it's not an issue between Prospera and the Honduran government. This is not an issue between Prospera and the Honduran government. This is an issue between the Honduran government and all of the private sector of Honduras, national and international. So the Honduran government, right now, you have over 90,000 hectares of land, private land, that have been invaded, you know, invaded by squatters. So these are campesino movements, armed and protected by the socialist government, and they go and they invade land, private property land. So you have 90,000 hectares of land invaded. You have not only a lawsuit from Prospera investors, you have 15 international lawsuits for confiscation of assets, because the government of Honduras has expropriated energy companies. Several energy companies have been, you know, attacked by the Honduran government. They have attacked energy companies in transportation, those who have built roads. They have attacked a company that developed an airport, one of the major airports in the country. You know, logistics operators, financial companies, you know, real estate development companies. So you have 15 international cases of you know, of people suing Honduras because the government is currently expropriating their investments. They're invading private land. The government is currently restricting access to U.S. dollar. You know, in mainland, fortunately, in Roatan, it's a very international community. So here you have access to U.S. dollars, but in the Honduran mainland, It's extremely hard, and this is just a political decision that they have made to try to force and essentially subjugate the private sector of Honduras. They also want to approve a new tax law that seeks to get rid of all the other special economic zones in Honduras, because you have ZEDEs, right? But you also have the traditional maquilas. This is like regular free trade zones where you have manufacturing companies doing exports mostly to the US. And over 200,000 people working in there, like almost 200,000 people work there, and the government doesn't care. They want to eliminate it. So again, and this is on the economic side. On the political side, they, have, taken over the Supreme Court. They took by Congress by force. That Congress here, the Honduran Congress, you have to elect a board of directors and president. They couldn't get the votes. You know what they did? They brought a mob of people to beat up the congressman, and they imposed. And when I say they, I mean President Xiomara Castro. I mean, she ordered the police to take the protection away from congressmen, and she led a mob of people in 2022 to impose by force one person that is her puppet in Congress, and this guy directs Congress. So fortunately, the electoral authorities are majoritarily controlled by the opposition. So the Electoral Council of Honduras, the political opposition has 2 representatives and the government has 1. And the Electoral Court of Honduras also, the opposition has 2 representatives and the government only has 1. So we're working very hard to have free and fair elections. Again, Hondurans really want to get rid of this government, and the polls are showing it. And I'm very confident that 1 year from now, a new president and a new administration will be announced, and I'm sure that whoever wins is going to be a person more respectful of the rule of law and people's rights.
All right, I just have a few more questions. One of them you might not be able to answer, but so because I've been coming here for a while, I've done multiple videos. If anyone is watching a video about Honduras and Prospera ZEDE on this channel for the first time, this is the 3rd video in the series. Please look at the video description. There is a playlist to better understand what this interview is about, because this is the 3rd founder, or can I refer to you as a founder of Prospera or not? Maybe. This is the 3rd interview from the Prospera ZEDE that I'm doing, so obviously I'm not going to repeat everything I've done in the prior video, so please go back and check those out. And the other question, 2 questions. One, everything that I'm hearing, because I've already did multiple interviews here, people are very concerned, so I'm sure this ruling has hurt potential imminent or upcoming investment. And hopefully you guys can not have any big issues. And I know you're well capitalized from prior interviews because you have been holding your reserves in Bitcoin, as we've discussed on prior videos with one of the founders. And so don't expect Prospera to go away anytime soon. And hopefully next year, the investment is going to be incredible to build out this economic zone. And instead of 200 businesses, you'll have 2,000 businesses or 20,000 businesses here from all around the world. The other question is, since we are talking about the political situation here in Honduras, on which side does the US stand? And the reason I ask is I'm also a geopolitical podcaster. And in general, whichever side the United States supports and tries to get in power in a foreign country is probably the side that needs to be not elected into power. We've seen this in Ukraine with the pro-American government in Ukraine basically antagonized Russia to attack. Where Israel is a completely different situation, where I am very skeptical on Javier Milei in Venezuela, in Argentina. Yes, he's a capitalist. Yes, he's a libertarian. Yet he slashed government spending, but the US helped put him into power. And the first thing he did was not enter the BRICS states, and has been creating adversaries in Latin America, like Venezuelan government, like the Brazilian government. And I honestly think that he, at the rate that he's going, he'll find a way to create a military conflict between Argentina and his neighbors, which is why I am very skeptical on Malay. The United States was in support of the current government in remember my countries. I'm sorry, guys. I've been like diving in underwater mostly for the last 2 days. In Colombia, which has just elected a very socialist government, the United States government helped basically overthrow Bolsonaro in Brazil, putting in Luna, which is a more socialist government, but at least Luna is still pro BRICS. And it's Venezuela is a very interesting case where the United States basically is still declaring that election to be fraudulent. They were 120% behind the opposition to Maduro. And since Maduro been reelected, the United States actually forced the countries around Venezuela to cut economic ties with Venezuela. Again, I live in Panama. We used to have direct flights to Venezuela, but not since November or not since like October of this year, because the United States forced Panama to cut ties with Venezuela along with other countries. And even though the government in Venezuela may not be great, I'm on the side that the current government of Venezuela is a better solution to an American puppet in Venezuela, potentially creating more problems. But in this case, it was all about the oil resources in Venezuela. So this could be a very hard question. You can say no comment. I don't want to get you in trouble with the Honduran government. But where do you see the United States stand in the Honduras, or Honduras doesn't have enough natural resources for America to put in a puppet to control Honduras?
So what I can comment is about the U.S. Role in the prior elections, the
Yes,
2021.
please. I'm very
elections.
curious.
And I mean, for me, they were openly supporting President Xiomara Castro to win the elections. There was
Okay, so it all makes sense now. So the United States was in support of the current government
yes,
in Honduras.
yes, that this is
The heart of all the problems in foreign countries is don't ever vote for the representative that the U.S. government helps put into power.
for to I mean, back then in 2021, you had a president, Honduran President Hernandez, who was a challenge for supposedly participating in drug trafficking. And then there was a coalition of multiple parties that joined to try to achieve a change. I was very skeptical of this coalition because it was led by the Socialist Party, and the executive power is unipersonal. There's only one president, so it doesn't matter what the coalition you have, whatever political agreements, under our constitution, it's only one person that becomes president, and he has the power over all of the executive. So there was support by the U.S. to achieve this transition in Honduras. The transition was achieved just a couple of days after the new administration took over. They requested the extradition of former President Hernandez. Then they appointed, Vice President Kamala Harris came to Honduras and participated in the when President Xiomara Castro took office in the whole ceremony. Vice President Kamala came
to congratulate her.
And in the ceremony and everything. And then they appointed an ambassador. We used to not have a U.S. ambassador because of some sort of diplomatic statement there. And so they got all the support. And then the relationship has deteriorated, between this administration and the U.S. but this administration has felt, has felt very comfortable with the Biden-Harris administration. Basically, they have felt that they can confiscate U.S. businesses, that they can violate the rights of, investors and that have brought to Honduras over $100 million, that have created thousands of jobs and opportunities. So, the Honduran government thinks that they can do it with impunity, at least under the Biden-Harris administration. And geopolitically, they have also not really much cared for what we understand are the U.S. Geopolitical interests.
Right.
The Xiomara Castro government, they cut ties with Taiwan and went with the
Well, of
People's
course,
Republic of
again,
China.
the US government, I can name countries all day, guys. They're doing it right now in Georgia, in the country Republic of Georgia. They want to put their own people there so Georgia can start a war with Russia again. They're trying to do it in Moldova. The US government has put in their puppet president in the province of Taiwan in the last 3 elections. So the last, the prior 2 terms and the new president right now in Taiwan, or the prime minister of Taiwan, has been put in place by the United States. And this is why the relations are so bad between Taiwan and mainland China, because the United States has put in their own puppets to rule Taiwan, to be adversarial to mainland China. And it looks like, I'm not surprised at all that this is also how it went down. And for those that are taking the view that it's evil American capitalists trying to take away Honduran land and rights with these ZEDEs, that's a contradiction, because as was just explained, the current administration is very supportive of the US administration, and the US administration is supportive of the current administration. So you can't have it both ways. You can't have a federal government here in Honduras that is doing the right thing by taking away foreign land, because that's what literally the United States is helping them to do. And that would be a contradiction for those that think that it's evil capitalists trying to come to Honduras.
Yeah, no, and to that point, it's also important to remember, because sometimes people imagine Prospera as a colony of foreigners, and like most of the people in Prospera are Hondurans.
Right.
Like, really, foreigners, what do they bring? They bring capital, knowledge, technology. We get the jobs, Hondurans get the jobs. We get the better quality of living. We get the more opportunities.
My school instructor for the last 2 days, Honduras.
Again, almost everyone in Prospera is Hondurans. The foreigners that you see, they're bringing capital, they're bringing technology,
They're not taking away any jobs. They're coming here to build companies and hire locals. And here in Rotan, almost everybody speaks English and Spanish.
And it's also Hondurans governing. Like, again, I'm the technical secretary of the zone, so Hondurans govern. The Hondurans get the jobs, Hondurans get the benefits, and foreigners just come to Honduras to deploy their capital, seeking more opportunities, a place to innovate. And I'm very, very proud to offer that to the world. So welcome, by all means, people from all the world, welcome to Honduras. I want you to come here. The Honduran people want you to come here to invest here. We're going to change our government. These people it's their last year in power, and we will create the conditions so that you can invest and prosper here in Honduras with us, just how we have already done it here in Prospera ZEDE, and we're going to expand this to the rest of the country.
All right, awesome. I won't keep you any longer. Any final thoughts before I stand up and just show people around this gorgeous property that was purchased by Prospera in 2021?
No, just thank you for listening. And the next year, from January to March, there's going to be a big event, Vitalia Forever. So we're expecting thousands of people. That's going to be very interesting. You get entrepreneurs, scientists, investors. So if you're thinking of coming to Roatan, beautiful tropical island, as Tom's going to show you right now, those are magnificent dates to come, and I hope you visit us then.
And can we also back up on this property? So this was appraised at $115 million in 2016, but because of the pandemic, the owners of this property couldn't afford to maintain it because they couldn't have any tourists. This $115 million, one of the most beautiful resorts I've been to, was going to be swallowed up by the jungle if Prospera didn't rescue it.
Yeah.
So when people say, oh, it's evil rich people coming in, this property would have been swallowed. Like if Prospera didn't purchase it in 2021 and this was still owned by the Honduran bank today, you would barely see this gorgeous villa I'm sitting in. The jungle swallows things incredibly quickly. You guys have invested millions of dollars restoring this property, these properties after purchase, because the jungle was starting to, after 1 year. There's maintenance has to happen here every day, or the jungle is going to swallow it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's been millions of dollars in repairs and improvements and everything, and it also shows the need of Prospera, right? Because there was a litigation also. There was a litigation, multi-year litigation, and there are other properties in the island that have development has not progressed, and other beautiful properties that are also stuck just because of litigations, and again falling into the as we can see today, fall into the grasp of the Honduran judicial system is the most horrible thing ever. So within Prospera, you're able to settle disputes quite efficiently with a local arbitration center, and just something like what happened to this resort shouldn't ever happen again under the Prospera framework.
All right, excellent. All right, guys, let me, my camera is like, it's like an AI camera, so I kept moving because when we do this, we unlock the camera and now it's going to follow me. And I just want to show you around a lot. I haven't even been in this pool. It's been since 8 in the morning. It's been just diving, but right out there. And this place is absolutely spectacular. I will hold the camera. Let me lock the camera in. Still moving? Still moving. I don't know if it can see me. I can do it manually. Okay, now it's moving. Sorry. Okay. Camera is locked. I'll just hold it in my hand. And there you go. Here, this is Las Verandas Resort. This is a beautiful destination. It has about 20 large villas. That's our diving, clothes, drying. It has about 20, maybe a little less, about 15 large villas, like 5 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms with pools, and maybe another 30 villas or so, or 30 more like regular style hotel rooms. This is one of the most gorgeous properties I've stayed at. It's right on the beach. You have diving, snorkeling within 5 minutes, by less than 5 minutes by boat. You can always just go out with your snorkeling gear right off the beach here. And it's a must visit place. And Roatan in general, even if you don't visit Prospera, I strongly recommend Roatan. It's one of my favorite islands in the Caribbean. And you just gotta come here and experience it for yourself. Very safe island. I never feel like I'm at any kind of danger. Easy to rent a car. They'll bring you to the airport. Tiny airport. Easy to drive around. No stop signs. It's really a great island. So I can't speak more highly about it. I still plan to keep coming here. I plan to support the ZEDE framework. I said I was ready to quit everything I do in Bitcoin to come and help Prospera ZEDE succeed, because this is the foundation of the first private city in the world. And this project is too important to fail. So I'm going to continue to do interviews and keep everyone posted on the progress for as long as it takes, basically, because I think cities like this or zones like this is the future of capitalism. And don't let any other propaganda channel tell you otherwise. Thank you all so much for watching, guys. And see you all tomorrow morning on the Financial Summit channel for the financial updates. and my update on the Trump administration and what is happening in the US political sphere is coming probably around Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for watching, and see you all on the next one.